hello, let's step into the future. I just drank too much kombucha.
I love it.
It's
clear mind. So now you're going to have a clear mind.
I prime myself to burp on this mic constantly.
What if you become clairvoyant now?
I'm just
off the kombucha.
Spirits are just coming to me.
Maybe we just started something for some people that are out there listening to this, a clairvoyant kombucha, and then have like esoteric symbols all over the label.
I love it.
Yeah.
I would buy that brand.
Yeah.
I'm all about that type of brand.
We invent all kind of things.
Yeah. That's what we do. We're big idea people.
Yes. Oh, that's funny.
We've talked a lot about a lot of philosophy and fundamental and, explanatory things regarding Tartle, its effects on society, what have you. What I want to now bring the series into, I got to stop with the booch. What I want to bring the series into is current events,
right?
With what's going on with data and the applicability of these events. And I kind of want to give our 2 cents on it. I know you've curated a lot of fresh stuff, but I think this is something that we should start moving into because it's important to talk about where we currently are in society with technology and where we kind of fit into that with Tartle. And I'll kind of give, frankly, my insights and opinion on it.
Yeah, no, and that's what I want to get into. I think the first one that people need to understand is there is a reaction, and I want to use that word reaction to large companies, to government entities, with what is going on with decentralization in the government. Yeah. And especially, and not just government, but these, and I'm not talking about Google, Facebook, because everybody always kind of gets the rap on them, but I'm talking about banks, large hedge funds.
Sure. Yeah.
When you're looking, and when you're Goldman Sachs, when you're going over into Europe and you're seeing companies that have literally been in place since, the 1700s.
Right.
So they're looking at data and they're saying, how can we monetize this? What should we do with it? We know the direction that we should go. We pay to have all these reports done for us, and we're seeing this. And I think it's a lot nearer than people think, because what we're going to get into today, a lot of these large corporations and large governments and banks and stuff are all using 2025 and 2030. And that's not that far away.
No, it's not. I mean, when we heard about 2020, it was like, that's coming up. That's quick.
Yeah. And this one I want to talk about the National Archives and Records Administration. That's our government agency here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And they hold all the government files.
Have you been to the National Archives in DC?
A long time ago. Yes.
I was a little bummed out. I went in there recently.
You're trying to find UFOs?
Yeah. I want to know all about it.
Who killed JFK?
Yeah, exactly. But when I went in there, it's just like TVs and like bad exhibits.
Yes.
There's no archives. Most of the stuff's made digital, but everything's locked up. I can't get my hands on the musty smell of the old paper.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. You want to actually see.
When you go into a library, well, for me, when I go into a library, I just want to like really grip on. I want to see the archives.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if it's a server room, someone's like, "These are the archives." You know what I mean? Like, oh, cool, it's behind glass. That's awesome. No, I just get some crap exhibit.
What was the university? They have a little thing where they invented the internet there in California, and they have like all the old computers and all the modules and stuff
Stanford,
like that.
When they were working with DARPA and stuff.
Yeah,
like
they
that.
have all that available. Berkeley. So I think there's like a room, and viewers can correct us on this in the show notes, but I think there's like a whole room and they preserved it.
I hope they did.
Just like how it was, like the clock is still there. And
you know what I wish I was like. The Da Vinci Code?
Yes.
Do you know when he goes in the Vatican into the library?
Yes.
That's what I wanted it to be like, but I was so bummed out going to the archives. You go in, you can donate to go in here, but it was just like, it was melodramatic.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was dark and gloomy, make the archives fun.
I always picture it like being in a like underground lights, fluorescent lights going almost in a horror movie, and then all these metal file cabinets, like that ugly brown color.
Ugly brown or like that weird teal from the 50s.
And then in the middle is these old big tables with remember the little pencils?
And they have no eraser, they're just cut at the top.
Yes, exactly.
Frankly, useless writing
instrument. And they're white.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
So the National Archives and Records Administration, they made a pronouncement to all the agencies. So think of all the government agencies. Thousands, probably.
Too many 3-letter agencies.
That they're going to be 100% digital. Get this, by the end of 2022.
So they're going to be done scanning in all the hard copy archives?
And they, so the government said, you agency, whatever agency it is, NSA, you are going to be 100% by. So they all had group heads all get together, and they had a meeting under the Digital Government Institute eDiscovery, Records and Information Management. It was a virtual conference because of COVID and stuff. This just happened, and they surveyed all these leaders to get a sense on how far along they've progressed in going 100% digital by the end of 2022.
And what they say? NSA is like, we've been doing it since the 80s.
So here's the three main responses. They were divided. One was making progress. One was we have a long way to go. And the other one was don't ask.
So essentially, nothing has gotten done.
Yeah.
Making progress means somebody moved a piece of paper from this department
Right.
over here because it's the government.
But, and what I want you to speak to is these electronic records management and the journey that they're going on is where a lot of companies are. But once they put that information, then it becomes data.
Well, it does become data. And then, so let's consider something here. A lot of companies still do a lot of stuff on paper.
Mm-hmm.
The digital transformation, I know that's a buzzword, for these companies is slow. There's a lot of, well-trodden, even manufacturing firms here in the United States that you don't hear their names, but they're making important stuff like the ball bearings, certain, chipsets, all this other stuff, things that to you and I or any other person would seem albeit unimportant, but they're foundational things to the economy and the things we produce here. And they do a lot of stuff still on paper.
Mm-hmm.
They lack that transition from hard copy to digital copy. And doing so effectively means that, one, it's like, great, we're going to take a document and make it digital, but you have to train people on accessing that document. And then we have security about how it's being stored.
Yes.
And then how are we going to access it? Okay. How long do we keep it for?
Right.
Is it worth scanning in? And then I also have to accrue my time and people and resources to go and actually get that stuff and turn it into something digital.
Well, and one of the big concerns is integration of AI and ML capabilities. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, because what they're learning is if we can take this tremendous amount of data since 1776 and we can put it in, the cloud or wherever it goes, and we allow machine learning AI to do its job, especially machine learning now with what we have, then what kind of information what kind of insight would we be getting back?
Here's the funny part about, AI ML. It's designed to look for inefficiencies.
Yes.
The government, do you really think they want to put an AI ML process on all of their stuff to read the inefficiencies of what's going on? It's not going to clue them into anything other than it's inefficient. It's designed to be inefficient. But if you're talking about accessing these documents, I think it helps them in terms of receiving more funding.
Yes.
Saying that we're going to use AI and machine learning and we're going to partner with IBM to get it done. Okay, well, big deal. It's not, what advantage really is it for you to make all this stuff digital?
Right. It's almost like a whole new frontier I was talking to you about. It's the Wild West. And so now you can get Oracle, Microsoft, all these different big, large companies, Google, to say, oh, okay, we'll team up beside you and help you and become a government contractor. Now we have a whole new way to build a government.
Yeah, that's essentially what's going on. And then you have this, the government becomes then a digital government at that point. It's not like we're saying we're going to apply AI and machine learning to policy making.
Right.
No, it's just going to be how we index and search documents and how departments and agencies, interagencies speak to one another. Because right now they do a very poor job.
Yes.
So if we can digitize the documents, we can cut back on a lot of the processes that may take weeks or months at a time to get it from one department to the other properly and just have it sent over electronically.
Yeah. And one of the things that they talked about is they want to automatically classify, extract, and enrich physical. I thought that was interesting. Physical and digital content. So classify, extract, and enrich.
What do they mean by physical?
I was wondering if would it be something that they have physically where they would, maybe take pictures of it or maybe it's satellite imaging.
Oh yeah. So that makes sense. So for instance, on most phones, they have a thing called Google Lens.
Yes.
If you take a picture of a text document, it's going to actually strip all the text off.
Right.
It's just a function of an algorithm and it's processed on the servers in the cloud. So that's probably something they're looking for. If they have documents that you don't really want to touch or manipulate, but take a photo at a distance and frankly absorb the observational data.
Yes.
Because that's what AI ML does. It's all about observing. That's the only state in development that it currently sits at. Well, that's something they're looking for, especially things that are quite fragile. You can't move them much. Say you want to document statues.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take a picture of the statue and I want it to be automatically identified within our systems, right? With our machine learning or AI, whatever it might be. Say that this statue is here, it has this much data. This is the last time it was maintained. All these other things that go with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what's the history behind it? All that
exactly.
will be attached to it. At a high level, the 3-step process is going to look like this. Number 1 is input records. So the system uses optical character recognition, image recognition, and video processing capabilities to ingest information and save it in electronic format.
Okay, so really all it is a giant electronic scribe.
Right.
It's a movie camera and something taking notes.
Yes.
That's all they're saying. And we need it to sit there and we need it to run all day long collecting all this hard copy stuff.
And so the second one is they want to apply AI and ML, and here's how they want to do that. Using a classification process and identity extraction combined with AI ML tactics, I thought that was an interesting word, the system will automatically train a model, apply it, capture feedback, and prepare the data for the next phase.
Yeah, that's correct. So what they're saying is that we're going to institute our AI ML. What is our base algorithm that we're going to use? Great. So these are the fundamental outputs we're looking for, depending on the inputs we're putting in. And the inputs are this hard data, photocopies, videography. Now that these are in, the system is going to look at it, identify it, and then it's going to go back and it's going to retune those initial parameters that were in the algorithm so that as it begins to ingest more information, it can more accurately see where certain things belong or how they actually interact with one another. Yeah.
And then number 3, which you just spoke of, is output. Once the data is prepared, it is exported into a data visualization function that enables agencies to search, analyze, and generate deeper insights to make better decisions from that information.
Okay, so here's an interesting part. So they want this thing reading files so that it can find some sort of efficiency KPIs.
Right.
KPIs.
And then I like the word data visualization function.
Well, the reason they do that is because people don't like trying to manipulate Excel files.
Right.
They do not like reading numbers. They don't like reading text. People think that they can demand better decisions if they look at a pie chart quickly or get some sort of visual. And a lot of systems now, especially some local companies here we have in New Mexico, specialize in just ingesting data and then having their system with its algorithms output some sort of visual immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense there. So benefits of the AI ML approach, they kind of describe it, and then I'll have you speak to a few of these, and then we'll be done with this story. Metadata for search and tracking. So, and then it has data ingestion from multiple sources.
Okay, let's talk about the metadata for a second.
Okay.
So when you take a photograph, just so someone understands this, the photo sits there.
Right.
But actually inside of that, it's going to describe the geolocation where the photo was, the time, the place. And if you're lucky, sometimes it can actually recognize who the person is and start to input profile data.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, this was Alexander in this photo. This was Jason in this photo. You know what I mean? And that's the metadata. That's the stuff that's actually baked into it. And also like the file size.
Yes.
How it's formatted. Those are all the...
What camera it was taken on. Yeah.
Those are all the things that help index where this information goes in these systems, right? So that when you go back to these tables to look for this info, the machine does, it knows what things it wants to search for and almost like piece together and it's like a little puzzle.
Yeah, I always pictured, in my little mind to make it simple for everyone. You remember that like cool detective that has stayed up all night and it's like, 4:00 in the morning, he's drank 20 cups of coffee and he's smoking cigarettes and he doesn't care. Yeah. And then you look up and there's this huge board. And then there's like strings
it's
attached
got the red string,
with the
like
serial killer.
Oh,
yeah. And all of a sudden he's got all these documents and files.
That's what
and
it
he
is.
put it all together.
That what you're saying right there, that is the very analog format of what a computer can process at a more efficient rate.
Yes. Yeah.
But that only happens if the proper parameters are put in place
if
by
you have
the detective.
That badass detective.
Yeah. That detective would have to know exactly what needs to be looked for and what shouldn't be looked for.
Yes. Yeah. And then disseminate that information.
Right.
Data integration from multiple sources. This is a huge...
Come on. This is what Tartle does.
Right.
Data integrations from multiple sources means if you're going on Tartle and say we have 1,000 different platforms that we're integrated with, social media, healthcare, IoT, Fitbit data, whatever it might be.
Right.
Those are all these different data sources, these integrations that are coming in place so that they get constant feed like a pipe of information that's always feeding the system.
Yeah, because what they're worried about is having siloed sources. And so they want to classify each piece of information by type with the associated metadata.
Yeah, and then that's what they want to do. What happens is a lot of information that gets collected in systems. We talked about data lakes, data silos. We talked about the movement of data in my previous episode. They're trying to put momentum behind this stuff. It's been locked up for so long. They've done so good at recording and holding on to things, physical and non-physical.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, we got to put some wheels on it.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, when that detective picks up that folder of an unsolved case from 5 years ago and he's trying to, this happened. Let me put this together. There were similarities in this. What I like about this, and this is what I love about Tartle, is that we're putting value to information.
Yeah, of course.
Because there was no value sitting in a file cabinet in a folder.
Zero.
With an unsolved case.
Unless it's moving, unless someone can take that data that's been purchased and associate it with other data and analyze it and cross-analyze it and do all these other things to find those correlations, right? It's worthless. It needs to be moved.
Right.
It needs to be treated like an asset, but an asset that's fungible.
Yes.
And when I say fungible, something that can easily be traded, transported, held, moved, whatever, all these different things.
I love that. Yeah. So, hopefully 2022, which is like in 2 years.
I'll tell you what,
100% we have government agencies.
We have beat them to the punch.
Yes.
Folks, you heard it here first. Thank you very much.